Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again from a miserable Stellenbosch, but yet a lovely place to be. And it's actually a little bit of a celebration today. It's the 12th month that we are doing Free Friday Lunch webinars. So thanks for those of you who have been loyal supporters, and that's always attend these sessions. For those of you who don't know me, I head up an organization called company called Soldati. As well as a company called Soft Skill Solutions. And please watch this space from a soft skill solutions point of view. We will, the plan is from next month to start doing soft skills masterclasses at our facilities. You can book online in the next couple of weeks. Start booking online on our calendar system under soldati.com. We're starting with leadership fundamentals, presentation skills, as well as personal productivity. But I will share with you and keep you posted as far as that's concerned. A couple of housekeeping matters. Just my disclaimer for a start is that I don't have this magic wand that shares stuff with you and then your life magically just goes to the next level. No, I wish I was, because I would have been a wealthy man. I would like to give you different perspectives though. And that's pretty much what today and all these webinars are about. That will hopefully pave the way to you living a life that's definitely better. And by the way, I'm not standing and presenting today. I've constrained myself. I'm presenting from my friend's lounge in Stellenbosch, visiting my son for Father and Son weekend, just by the by. Right, with those disclaimers out of the way and just admitting a couple of more people, I want to invite you to reflect. Please reflect. And funny enough, as far as today's topic is concerned, reflect on the content that I share with you around reflection. Self-reflection is defined as serious thought about our character and our actions. And Claude Monet, the very well-known French painter, said, "It's on the strength of observation and reflection that one finds a way. So we must dig and delve unceasingly." It's not a spelling mistake like I originally thought. I thought it was supposed to be increasingly. No, unceasingly, continuously, without stopping. We need to dig and delve and reflect. So we might ask, but why? Why do we reflect? Well, to me, it's about taking stock. About taking stock of life. Where am I? Where am I heading? And while I was preparing for the session, I came across this article called "The Benefits of Developing a Reflective Routine." It was written in May this year, a couple of months ago, by a guy called Matthew Lynch. And simple article that just highlights 3 benefits of reflecting that I would like to share with you. He first of all says, if you reflect, you'll be more organized and focused. When you have a reflective routine, you'll be able to stay organized and focused on your tasks. This will help you stay on track with your goals, and you'll be less likely to get sidetracked. Secondly, says the benefit is that you'll be more productive. When you have a reflective routine, you'll be able to be more productive in your work. This will help you to get things done quickly and efficiently, and you'll be more likely to achieve your goals. And then finally, in the short article, he says you'll be more confident if you reflect more. When you have a reflective routine, you'll be more confident in your abilities. This will help you feel more in control of your life, and you'll be less likely to feel scared and uncertain about what you're doing. Just some food for thought. And when we do reflect, to me, very importantly, it allows me to apply control, and then as a result, to make changes to my life. You see, if we look at typically where we want to go in life, as opposed to where we are currently heading, if you don't do something like reflection, then you will keep on heading in the wrong direction. And the thing is that the distance between these two paths, these two diverging paths, just increases over time. So unless you apply control through reflection, you won't be able to come back and make sure the two paths of where you want to be and where you're currently heading are aligned. Another very good reason to reflect. We're all running this treadmill. We are seriously busy with so much stuff every single day that if we don't say to ourselves, stop, I am very convinced that we at some point will burn out.
What role has reflection played in shaping your personal growth?
The ability to look at oneself critically, to say to oneself, you were good in that situation, you weren't good in that situation, you could have been better in that situation. Not to be overly critical, meaning you're always at fault if something goes badly, or not to be so filled with hubris that you think everything you did was fine and it's always the other person, but be able to sort of separate yourself, to look at the situation from as if you were the third party, evaluating it. You know, when they do sales training, there's, you know, it's always three people. One who pretends to be the salesman, one who pretends to be the customer, and one who observes. And then they all take turns, you know, and the one who does the learning is the observer. So the question is, can you be your own observer? Like, can you replay a situation? And so self-reflection has been huge for me, and I've been huge into it for many, many, many years. The ability to say, okay, I can take some responsibility for the outcome of that, good or bad, and I can learn to do that again, or I can learn to spot those situations and avoid them in the future.
I want to talk to you about the power of the next time. Saying to yourself upon reflection, but the next time I will do things differently. The next time I can do things better. But there's one proviso though. Upon reflection, we can't say, but the next time. And every single time we reflect on the same issue, we say, but the next time, but the next time. No. Obviously, there needs to be action and real motivation to do things differently, better. And in reflecting, I want to encourage you and me, because trust me, I'm very guilty of this quite often. I want to encourage you and me to stop being so hard on ourselves. Oh, Hekkie, there you go again. Look at you. Idiot. No. Other way of talking to myself might be, you made a mistake. You are human. You've learned from it. And guess what? You won't make it again. And that's much more positive way of approaching it, as opposed to being too hard on yourself. We get different levels of reflection. There are just a couple of them. So I want to share with you just simple ways of reflecting. Give me a second. I'm just admitting somebody that I promised I would admit, and I just did that. So if we look at simple rather levels of reflection, then we can, for a start, look at micro-reflection. I'm just going to share two things that works for me. Micro-reflection. When you get into my garage at home, and when I get from my office, say at 6 o'clock at night or for 6, after I park my car, in my garage, you'll find an annual calendar, just like this one. And next to the annual calendar, there are two highlighters, a green one and an orange one. Green representing good, well done, happy. Orange actually representing red, being, no, I could do better, I'm not happy. I need to ask myself the next time, what would I do differently? Before I get into our kitchen and say hi to the family and start the evening routine, I would pause in front of this calendar. And I would decide to myself, in terms of what I've done and the way I've behaved today, is the green or is the orange day? And I would literally then take, thankfully I can say, mostly a green highlighter and highlight that date. So if you get into my garage, you'll find a calendar that's got all these dots on it. Just a simple way of quick reflection using verbal reflection, talk to myself, and it's quick and short.
I had failed on an epic scale. An exceptionally short-lived marriage had imploded, and I was jobless, a lone parent, and as poor as it is possible to be in modern Britain without being homeless. The fears that my parents had had for me and that I had had for myself had both come to pass. And by every usual standard, I was the biggest failure I knew. I had no idea then how far the tunnel extended, and for a long time, any light at the end of it was a hope rather than a reality. So why do I talk about the benefits of failure? Simply because failure meant a stripping away of the inessential. I stopped pretending to myself that I was anything other than what I was, and began to direct all my energy into finishing the only work that mattered to me. Had I really succeeded at anything else, I might never have found the determination to succeed in the one arena where I believed I truly belonged. I was set free because my greatest fear had been realized, and I was still alive, and I still had a daughter whom I adored, and I had an old typewriter and a big idea. And so rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life. You might never fail on the scale I did, but some failure in life is inevitable. It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default.
And then another form of reflection might be macro reflection, like J.K. Rowling did in the video that I just showed to you of her life. Something like looking at our goals, sitting down, making more time, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour a week, where you sit down and decide, in relation to my life goals, am I happy? Or is there something that I would like to change? Written takes more time versus the first one being a micro reflection that's verbal. Whatever works for you. That's the advice I want to give to you. Ritesh Ranjan said, the best way of motivating yourself is to reward yourself the same way as you reward others. Something we don't often do enough, rewarding ourselves, also upon reflection. Saying to myself, well done. And celebrating our successes is something I would submit we don't do enough of. And there's no need to have a big party that costs a lot of money like our government officials sometimes do. But you can celebrate your successes and you can acknowledge your wins by doing small things. For example, using self-talk to celebrate small wins. Before I prepare for a mile event, which I'll start to do again because it's summer, getting to summertime, well, certainly in Joburg, I would, as soon as I get to 50 laps in preparation for a mile event, I would say to myself, well done, Hekkie. Well done. Self-talk, acknowledging my successes, celebrating them. Doesn't cost me anything. Margaret Wheatley said, without reflection, we go blindly on our way, creating more unintended consequences and failing as a result to achieve anything useful. Love this quote from Abraham Lincoln. It refers to sharpening our life pencils or sharpening our life axes. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. Ladies and gents, I've got no doubt that self-reflection and making enough time for self-reflection is such a powerful tool that you can use to add balance to your life, to make sure that you live a balanced life more. Pausing, breathing, and thinking about where you are going. What can I tweak? What can I change? Appreciating what you've got as part of reflection. Like I appreciated this morning when I went for a run with my friend's dog in Stellenbosch while it was raining. So I want to quickly share with you a story of having each other's back, for holding each other accountable when we talk about reflection. And a story that happened this morning. So Gert, my mate, is my longest living mate. We've known each other for 32, 33 years, where I'm staying here in Stellenbosch. This morning, or last night actually, he asked me, he said, what are you doing tomorrow morning? I said, I've got so much to do. I want to finish my presentation, but I've got so many other things I need to get at. He said, okay, what's your presentation about at 12 o'clock? I said, it's about reflecting. He said, really? Are you going to tell me you can't make time, because that's what he was proposing initially, you can't make time for us to go and have coffee, to reflect, to spend time together, and you actually want to do a webinar on reflection? And then the penny dropped. So this is where Gert and I was this morning in Stellenbosch while it was raining. We had a nice croissant, like my wife pronounces it in French, and a good cup of coffee. The point is, sometimes we forget. Even guys like me that seriously focus on these things and that take it seriously in terms of how can I master myself, how can I develop and lead myself better. We also forget. Let's hold each other accountable around doing important things like making time for reflection. When I talked about sample habits, I've shown you this slide before. If we are too busy, we think we're too busy to reflect. Like I would have only spent 20 minutes in the gym swimming as opposed to an hour, as opposed to doing nothing while I'm too busy. You can also say, do sample reflection. Apply sample habits like in this case, in terms of what we're discussing today, sample reflection. Reflect quickly. Okay, if you're really too busy to do it properly, but at least do it. Otherwise, it takes so long for that habit to come back into your life until you've got enough time to do it properly again. I'm closing off by asking you and me the question of, am I reflecting enough? And an even bigger and more important question I would submit is, if the answer is no, if I'm not reflecting enough, what can I do better? What can I do more to reflect? And as a result, live a more fulfilled life. You see, we can't, you and I, say, one day I will say I did it. And there's a red dot for a reason, so I can remember to share another story with you. While I was jogging this morning, I thought, cheapers, this area in Stellenbosch is just, stunning. It's such a beautiful area. And I thought about retirement. And then my mind leaped to the point where a lot of people always say, one day I'll do stuff when I retire. One day when I retire, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to bring in things into my routine. One day might never happen. The thing is, we need to live life every single day the way we would like to live life. And I believe one of those elements that we need to include in that daily life is to have a reflective routine, to make time for reflection, as opposed to saying, one day I'm going to do it. One day is too late. And frankly, one day would not allow you to benefit of doing things like reflection to improve on a daily basis. Life's about choice to a very large extent. My wish for you and me is that we take reflection more seriously and we reflect to improve, and then we reflect to improve again, and we keep on doing it as part of living a more fulfilled life. If this stuff interests you, I've written a book on, amongst other things, this topic. It's available all over. Please register for our next 3 Friday lunch webinar. Normally on the last Friday of the month, but unfortunately not this month because I'm traveling. On our calendar system, soldati.com, just go to Growth Solutions, Genetic Growth Solutions, and you'll find it. Next month's topic is conflict management and courageous conversations. I think a topic that most of us find quite challenging. November, it's about developing healthy communication skills. And then in December, we're taking a break. But when I say taking a break, reading a lot, accumulating information in order to present you in 2024 more good topics and more good content. Hopefully, you will receive it as, or experience it as, around leadership and self-leadership topics. That, ladies and gents, is the end. I want to thank you again for spending time with us this morning. Those are my details. For those of you who don't have it, please invite me to join you as far as LinkedIn is concerned. On that note, I'm going to stop sharing. And I want to invite you to ask me any questions, comments, criticism, things you might want to add. Please feel free. And apologies for lighting. We have load shedding, but fortunately my mate has an inverter and I'm on battery power, so it's all good. But if you can't see me that clearly, do not worry. I do have a face mostly for radio, so that's also not the end of the world. Any questions? Stefan, do we have anything in the chat box that you maybe monitor that like you normally do? You mute.
There's just a comment from myself thanking you, Hekkie, for great advice, and yeah, just listening to you again, and I've got a few of my colleagues in here as well. I think the problem that most of us experience is, again, like anything else, good advice, we know that it is what we need to do. It is just shocking how often we prioritize everything else that we're busy with, at work, in your community or whatever, and the very last person that gets attention is ourselves. I always jokingly look at my calendar on a Friday. Probably 10 years ago, I blocked out Friday afternoons for reflection.
Yeah.
And it's shocking how I don't get to that, because there's always something else. So I think you've just reminded all of us again that it's time. We better do this. Tomorrow might not come for us. I'm attending another funeral this afternoon.
Yeah.
A guy that went into retirement, and 3 years later he's dead. So yeah, it's time to reflect and on what is really important, and making sure that we get the balance right.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Stephen. I can't agree with you more. It's it's a question of what's our motivation, and I think very often, if we have strong enough motivation, and we obviously need to ask ourselves, why don't we? Typically, and I'm not pointing fingers or trying to highlight. I'm also talking to myself. Then we need to try and find the root cause for that. And all these things that we typically discuss in these sessions are intertwined. It's self-discipline goes in with that as well.
Sure.
The ability to say, no, these are my 2 hours. I'm going to set out to do what I want to do, and forget it. And come hell or high water, unless it's a game changer, unless I always want to say somebody gets sick, or it's a question of death, forget it. I'm going to do it, because guess afterwards we never feel sorry. We never have, if we do the thing that we know would be a good thing for us, and we actually push through.
Yeah, it's like going for a run, eh? It's like,
exactly.
You always feel better afterwards. But
exactly. No, absolutely. Thanks, Stefan. Appreciate it. Anybody else, gents and ladies? I really appreciate. It's so nice. As I went through the presentation, I admitted people. Normally, I stop after 5 minutes. I decided no, there weren't enough of you when I started. So let me admit people. So when I unshared and I saw all these frames of blocks, I was pleasantly surprised. So thanks for that. Anything else, Mia?
And as you explained to us, it must become, not must, one needs to or want to form a habit. And after a week, it's not a habit anymore. It's just in your program, as if you would brush your teeth.
Exactly.
It's not you're thinking about it, you just do it.
Absolutely. And a very good point. Thanks for that. I've found in my life, to Mia's point, if I include things that are good for me into my routines, and I say my routines are not negotiable, to myself and to my family, they know, and I've mentioned this before, that I stick to my routines, and I've pre-negotiated them with myself and with my family. So they know and I know I do it. And if you do that, to Mia's point, it becomes a habit. And it becomes part of who you are. Like I went for a jog this morning. Not that I do it enough, by the way. Let me not give the wrong perception. But we need to get it into our routines, make it part of our habits, and then it's a non-event. Then you don't need to go to bed at night and say, oh, again, I didn't do this. You've done it. You feel good about yourself. And it's just a win-win-win.
Hekkie, I see Derek has got a question in the chat, thanking you, and then saying, do you propose a formal approach to reflection or more free form? Just quickly, maybe from my side, what really helped me is to reflect with somebody else. So I've got a running appointment on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock with a colleague.
Yeah.
And we make it most of the times on every week, where we reflect together. And to have a sort of accountability partner really helps me. So it is formal in terms of we have got something booked in our calendar, but we're also flexible, and we don't have a set agenda, and we just reflect about work, about life, and that really helps to have a partner like that.
Yeah, that nice one, Stefan. Thanks. So formal and informal linked. So to answer Derek's question from my point of view, I think informal is great if you don't have the time, but I do think if it's only informal, okay, in terms of what I refer to now, that I say formal, informal, I meant informal. But if things are only informal, we typically find that sometimes it falls by the wayside. I think you do need to say, as part getting back to our routines, once a day or once a week rather, I will look at my life goals and look back at the week, and I will formally do it as part of using a reflective journal, for example, etc., because I do think otherwise it might not happen, if that makes sense. Right, we are on 12:31. I would like to wish you a wonderful weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon again. Please register and let me know if you want to add me to the standard distribution list for these invitations. All the best and look after yourselves, ladies and gents. Thank you.
Thanks, Hekkie.
Thanks again.
All the best.
Thanks, Hekkie. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
And you. Thanks a lot.